Hey everyone, Cotton Candy TA here, and welcome to Advanced Course Part 1, Lows and the Highs. Alright, if you're enjoying the content so far and haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so. If you want to support what I do, you can find the donation details in the video description. And if you haven't checked out the Twitter and TradingView account, I would strongly recommend you do so, as I post up my charts and daily interactions there and activities and content release schedule, things like that. So, without further ado, welcome to the Advanced Course. All right, a quick note about the advanced course. I get asked this question quite a lot, is when are you going to be introducing indicators? And yeah, good answer for you, never. So I don't use any indicators at all. I don't believe in them. They do not show you anything relevant to data at all, or identifying where a move is going to go or what a move is doing. Really, all they're doing is giving you a set of data from the past. They are giving you what has happened in the past, but they can't tell you what's going to happen in the future. Regardless of what you may think about Elliott wave, ABCD retracements, camouflage levels, pivots, Fibonacci, you name it, they're all useless. So ditch the indicators. We won't be using them. Okay, so what's the low and the high? So let's talk about that for a second, and this will kind of be going into this next parentheses here of recap of the beginner's levels. So the low and the high. The low and the high is something that we discussed in the beginner's course. So if you haven't seen the beginner's course yet, go ahead and do so now. It's very important that you know how to mark out these levels properly, and what I teach in the beginner's course. It's paramount to the advanced course. So if you haven't seen it, go watch all the beginner's course videos 1 through 10 all the way through, get a great understanding of it, and then come back to the advanced course. You won't be able to follow if you haven't, even if you've been trading for years. So yeah, go and check out the beginner's course if you haven't. And for those of you who have checked out the beginner's course, if you're have gaps in your questions and aren't quite grasping it yet, go watch it a second time or a third time or a fourth or fifth. This advanced course is not going to be easy. It's going to require great aptitude for learning, right? It's going to be very hard, and there's no quick methods here. This is not, if you're not following and understanding the beginner's course, the advanced course will go right over your head. You will not be able to adapt these things properly, and you'll end up making mistakes and having flaws. So kind of a requirement for these advanced courses, as they are so deep in content, and it is such a deep level of technical analysis. So the low and the high of the candles, if you guys remember back to the beginner's course, we went over and we marked the highs and lows of candles, right? So we would go back to the monthly levels and we'd mark, we would do something like this. We would mark the swing high of a level, and then we would mark the swing low of that level, right? And then on the very low side, we'd mark the swing low, and then we'd mark the high of the low. So we were marking out levels like this, and I trained you guys like this for a very specific reason, because it starts to train your brain for the more advanced material. It starts to train you to see things differently and better. It was important that your eyes were trained to see the highs and lows of candles for the future content. So now you guys have this great repertoire going into this advanced course, and understand you'll easily grasp and adapt these advanced concepts. Because you already were doing it. So you already were practicing a form of advanced concepts. You just didn't understand how and why and how to advance it further, right? So just as a quick recap on the beginner's course, that's part of what we're doing here, right? So let's talk about trends, right? Trend start and trend ends, okay? How to identify a trend properly. And in this video, I'm going to mark out some different things here for text, okay? But we'll get into that a little bit later. What we're going to do now is look at trends. So trends are like this. You have the low of a trend, and it moves to the high point, and then you have another trend here. You have the low point, you have a trend there, and that becomes one larger trend on a larger time frame like this, right? So you have a small trend here, followed by whatever the testing of this trend, followed by the move up, which actually is just one big trend, right? Just like you have a trend down here, and then another trend down here, and another trend down like that, and so forth, and on the larger frame, the downtrend is like that. So it was in this large downtrend with smaller downtrends within it, right? The fractalness of trends, right? A move within a move on different time frames, right? So that's what a trend is. It's identifying the lows and the highs of a move, right? And it sounds just like your levels that I told you to mark out from the beginner's course. You mark out the high of it and you mark out the low of it. So you're kind of seeing um, the connection there, where you're marking the high and the low, because that's what levels and identifying this thing properly is all about. And the nuances run very deep, so you'll kind of have some like, oh, that's pretty cool, or like some maybe aha moments, or something where you're like, whoa, hey, I've already been doing that, I didn't even know, but now that I understand, I'm gonna kill it and I'm gonna use this material like crazy. So yeah, just kind of a neat little overlapping you're going to see there. So the first thing we're going to talk about is identifying the swing lows in a downtrend. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to identify swing lows as red, and we are going to say swing low in a downtrend. Okay, and we are going to color these red. And we're going to use different colors for each level here. And what did I do for this chart? I'm using XRP USD. Okay, so the reason I'm using XRP USD today is because people are saying that they love Ripple and they'd love to see me chart it some more. So Ripple's a very popular coin, so no problem. Don't mind doing that, charting Ripple out a second time. Really, it doesn't matter what coin it was. This is the same methods and techniques. And you know what? Maybe just to kind of further prove that or not prove, but I guess further show this on a different chart. Bitcoin Cash SV was pretty crazy this weekend, and maybe we can take some of these concepts and quickly flip over to Bitcoin Cash SV, Satoshi Vision, the one of the two hard fork coins off of Bitcoin Cash that happened, and we'll just go take a look at it and see if these same concepts are apparent and relevant, and they will be, because they are on every chart. So I don't even need to look at Bitcoin Cash to know that these things are going to probably be the exact same. So we're going to identify some swing lows here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say in a downtrend we need to find swing lows, because those are going to be the levels of support. So a swing low in a downtrend, just like a swing high in an uptrend. So we're starting out with swing lows, and we're going to make this red because we made our text red. So that's going to be our swing low levels. Okay, so we have a swing low there, and let's turn the magnet tool on, get this thing exact. Oops. Okay, well, we'll put this one, the next one there anyways. Magnet tool on, we got that guy there, we got that guy there. Pull out another. Next swing low would be here. Next swing low would be here. Next swing low would be here. And the next swing low would be here. So in a downtrend, the first thing to start realizing is that your swing lows are creating your levels of support, right? So this is a very important thing to realize, is in a downtrend, and maybe before we do that, we'll mark the swing highs of the uptrend too. And let's make the swing highs yellow. Sure. Swing high in uptrend. Oh, still got the text in there. Swing high in uptrend. Okay. So we'll do this. We're gonna bring this in nice and tight. Right there. And that one doesn't have a cap. Ugh. I'm too nitty to let that go by. Swing low in a downtrend red, swing high in an uptrend. So now we're just going to go and mark some swing high levels, and we're going to turn this to be yellow. And we're going to turn the swing high right there. So you can really see where the swing highs in an uptrend and the swing lows in a downtrend are your levels of support and resistance. So to start this lesson, we are just going to talk about that, because this is going to get pretty advanced in material and pretty deep, and we're going to dissect this thing like you wouldn't believe. So first, we'll talk about the uptrend. We come up, right? Oh, let's turn that magnet tool off. We all know how much I love it. We come up, we make a swing high before we move down, therefore setting our swing high level. We come down, we test this level and break through it, therefore creating another swing high level. We come here, we first touch it, reject, come back, second touch it, reject, therefore starting to trigger the end of the uptrend. And we'll talk about the end of the uptrend. It's not because it keeps touching here that it loses the uptrend. It could do this, you know, it could continue to do this until one day it breaks. It has nothing to do with how many times this touched actually as to why we lost this uptrend. And then on, you know, as we go down, we create a swing low here, we come up, we test to gain this high back, we create another swing low here, we come up to test this high, and there's actually another swing low created there, even though it's local. This might be relevant, and It's probably not. It could be fractally relevant. I don't want to congest this chart too much right now and break it down and go into if it's relevant or not, because what I would have to do is I'd have to go fractal to the time frame. We're on a daily chart, so this move could have happened. This could have closed at 11:50 at night and reopened the next day at 12:10. So it could have been like a 20-minute move. So unless I have the fractal information to understand what's going on here, so unless I break this time chart down, so that's the reason I'm not going to use it now, because I suspect this is not really a real swing low. So we come down here, we make a swing low here, we come up, we make a swing low there, we come up, right? We make a new swing low there, finally before we break that trend and come up. So you know, those are the important levels to identify in a swing low scenario, right? When you're moving down in a downtrend, it's a swing low that's acting as your support, right? And then the same thing as a swing high, right? The swing high is acting as resistance. So again, as you come up, that's resistance, you need to break that. You come up again, this is resistance, you need to break it, right? So now that we've identified the swing low and the swing high, we can start to now further build on this, right? So what's the next piece of this? Identifying important levels, starting to lose lows and highs. Okay, so this is where it gets pretty advanced. We marked out the top and bottom of levels before. I taught you guys how to do that, and now we are going to take that same concept, right, and we are going to advance it. What I told you guys in the past was this, right? When you have a level, something like this, you have the swing low, right? And you're going to mark the bottom and top of that. And again, why I taught you that is because this here ends up becoming that there. You see how that works? You are now having the swing low and high of a zone. So instead of having a swing high and low of this candle, right? So this creates an event, if you would call it. Okay, so this creates an event. This event is this. This is resistance, this is support, the top and bottom of the candle. We know that from the past, okay? But what does that mean, right? It can't just be that simple. It can't just be, here's a level, we're done. That's basic trading. And that's not even basic trading. That's actually pretty advanced too, because that in itself is something that very little people know. So that actually is an advanced, and that's not what makes it advanced. It's how deep this move goes is what makes it advanced. So what does this mean? This mean we have wow, it's too late. This means we have now identified a zone that this is currently living in, right? And you know, let's get this exact, because I am just like that. I like my exacts. Okay, and let's move into this zone here. This creates an event. And what is this event? This event is this, right? It is this, right? Let's take that magnet tool off so I can actually show you guys properly. It is this. It needs to act as support and resistance within this zone. So when it starts closing above this candle right here, when it starts closing above this high, look what happens. It takes a big move up. It takes a big uptrend. We now are expanding right there. Yep, right there. We are now expanding that area. So this high that we made right here, it now becomes this high, and this zone now becomes this zone. So all you are doing is you are taking that same zone parameter and you are expanding it, because you have completed the move from here, right? You have completed that level. This level that was right here, you are going to do, whoops, let's re-add that properly. That level right there, you were going to do one of two things, right? You were either going to gain the upside and move up, or you were going to lose the low side and move down. If you lost the low side, right, that zone would now be in a downtrend, right? That zone would now be down here. And instead of moving this up, you would have moved that down, right? And this candle would have stayed the same because it's the low of the move. So instead, all you did was you move this up to here, and I got two lines there, so we can delete that. And all you did was you moved this zone up here like this, okay? So now, instead of having the low and high of one candle, you have the low and the high of a trend. You see how that works? You now have a stronger area to work on, because this becomes, think of it as levels, right? The level 1 was right here, and this was the lower strength, because it just needed to decide what the move was doing. This is the higher strength. This is happening over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days before this high is made, right? So now you have, instead of a 1 day level range, you have a level range that's created over 8 days. So that is very important to know, because it is expanding and evolving off the concept we did. Now, there's another important piece to this. It gets better. So we have the swing high of an uptrend, the swing low and a downtrend. This is not a downtrend here, so we do not need to mark that swing low out. What we are going to do is the trend low. Okay, that will be, I don't know, what color should that be? I don't know why this is such a hard thing for me. We'll just make it purple. Trend low will be purple. Okay, and we also need to do a trend, oops, I want to copy this text. We also need to do a trend high, because now instead of having a level high and a level low, we have a trend high and a trend low, right? So now we have a trend high, and we'll make that one like kind of a nice light green. So now we are going to mark out this trend. So this is like this, that is the trend low, and this is the trend high. So you can see how that's evolved now beyond this. Okay, now we have another level, and we're gonna have to start moving this stuff up a little bit. So let's move it up like this. Be the perfectionist that I am, just because it'll bother me every time I look at it, and I'll lose my train of thought, because my mind works in very easy ways like that. I see something I don't like and it just will bother me, and so I'm just kind of a nit like that. And then we're gonna have the swing low. We're gonna have the swing low of the trend candle. Swing low of the trend high candle. And that's gonna be, we'll go dark blue. Okay, so now we have the swing low. And you remember how I said we're marking out swing low and swing highs? Now we've taken this move and we have expanded it, and we have expanded its parameters to have multifaceted position within here. We have the trend low right here, we have the trend high, and then we have that same swing low, because the same event that happened here, that same event that happened here is happening right here, right? We are still creating another pseudo zone or a fractal zone, right? A zone within a zone. We are creating that zone right here that we need to decide, is this trend going to continue to move up, right? Are we going to test the top of this just like we tested the top of this? Are we going to test the top of that and keep moving up and create and keep creating new uptrends? Or are we going to lose the low that brought us to that high, right? The low of the high candle. And if we lost the low of the high candle, what are we going to test next? We're going to test this next, right? We're going to test that. And actually, to be technically accurate, to be really technically accurate, the start of the trend actually would have been right here. Let's put the magnet tool back on, because I actually had it mismarked, and you know, that's important for this. It's important to mark things exactly, because you'll miss things if you don't mark them exactly, and you kind of just, you know, wing it or whatever. You'll miss some pretty important things. So now you can see, oops, I deleted one too many things here. So now you can see how we have a zone within a zone, and a trend and levels that are creating something that's of more relevance and stronger. It's not one level or one candle creating two levels. It's 8 days on top of what created a trend to create an entire zone of something that's going to happen. So this is how you see trends, uptrends, downtrends. Now, we break up and the same thing happens here. So what do we have here? Let's mark out the same things, okay? So we have the start of the trend, which is right here. So this will be the trend low. So this is our new trend, right? This will be the trend low. And this will be the trend high. And we are going to copy this level here, and we are going to add that to this. So now you can see we have another trend zone here, and maybe for this box we will color this yellow. Yeah, we're gonna go with the yellow for this one, just because it's different. It's getting a little congested, so you can still kind of and you know, maybe we'll pull this back a little bit to something like that, and something like this, right? So this is our next trend, right? This is the same as this green box here, right? So we have a trend low, right? We have a trend high, and we have the low of that high candle. So let's dissect this move too, and this even has a zone within this zone. So that's this is zone right here, right? And that's created by the low of this candle here, right? So now we can break this down too. In this trend high, we know this started the trend and this completed the trend. So we come up, we complete the trend. Well, let's turn that magnet tool off. I can already feel it going wild. We come down, we try to break trend, it rejects. We dump down, and look where we dump down to. We actually dumped down to the beginning of the first trend. We actually moved up through this trend to continue our uptrend. That got rejected, and it pushed down right to the beginning of this dual trend, right? So very important to know that these things, they happen for a reason, right? These trend tests, they happen for a reason, and then it comes back on top of trend, right? It never actually closes out this trend. So as much downwards pressure as this thing had, right, it needed to be respected and come back into this zone here, because this is still where it's at, right? So it comes down, and also because we know that first touch, the first time we touch something, we are 90% of the time going to bounce off it and come back up. So that's exactly what we see here. We see a pretty strong dump, a big dump bounce, and it comes right back up in, right? So just a couple theories working together, and then we come up and we test this trend again, and we keep coming down, and we're fighting for trend, and then when we lose it, look what happens. We lose it there. What do? What are we testing next? We're testing the start of the trend, right? We are testing when we lose this zone here. So I'm going to delete this zone because we just lost this, right? So in this moment, let's delete all this stuff right here. In that moment right here, we lost, or sorry, right here. In this moment right here, we lost this box trend right here. And so we are going to test the start of the trend, right? So we test the start of the trend like magic, right? And we actually lose the trend, right? So what's going to happen when we lose that trend? We're going to test this trend, right? So, and that's exactly what we do. We come and, you know, for other reasons in here, we do a little bit of this up and down movement. We come back and we test this here, right here, right? Let's just back this up. It's getting a little wonky looking. Right, when we lose this, the top side of this trend here and the bottom side of this trend here, right, we lost this zone here. We test this level, we come down, we come back up because we are in this green box now. We are testing back the top of this trend, right? So we test it right there, so you can see it. We touch here and we test right there because we are living in this zone now, right? So we are living in this zone now. When that rejects, we end up losing the bottom of the trend, which signals a move down. So you can kind of see how trends work and why things do what they do. And to kind of further point out this theory, I want to just, like I said, I'm going to, you know, use Bitcoin Cash SV just because it's been the, only for the sole reason that it's been the, oops. Okay, what's going on here? All drawing tools. It's just only because Bitcoin Cash SV has been such a crazy coin. People, and you know, this was seen a mile away. You know, if we were to break this down into a 4-hour chart, this move was literally seen a mile away. And you know, all I'm going to do is I'm going to use the very simple methodology of marking some tops of trends, right? The same theory where trend reversal will happen when you mark out and you test the tops of levels. So I'm just gonna mark the top of every downtrend. So you've got a downtrend here. Oh, actually you have one that starts right there. I missed that little candle right there. You have another one right here. Have another one right here. And you have another one right here. And you have another one right here. So let's take a look at this. And let's maybe see where this trend bleed stops. So if we were to go here and we are to take it to the swing high, right? Trend to swing high, right? And the second that this move stops that bleed, right? And it starts to break sideways to break trend. It's gaining that trend line as support, and it closed out this valley right here, right? And what does that look like, right? and it closed out that level right there, right? It closed that downtrend level, and you could break this down to the hourly level and the 15-hour level, and you know, you'll see it a little clearer. You know, we can mark it out perfectly, and you know, as soon as it breaks up, it closes that trend, it has a big move up, right? And then same thing here, and same thing here, and it's, you know, you can see where it's testing the trend level. So we can just go back to the 4-hour chart, make this real simple, real quick. You know, what does this look like? Trend within a trend, testing a larger trend, testing a larger trend, and look how big the moves on Bitcoin Cash SV have been, because there's no space in between. That's why this coin moves so much. And you know, people asked, well, how did you call out Bitcoin Cash SV gonna move up so much? Because I gave I told people, you know, you should be buying it around 900, 1,000, because I started to see this happen, or 9,000 and 10,000, because I started to see this happening. And you know, it was pretty obvious that once it closes this trend, like this is a, you know, this is a large move up. Once it closes this trend, which is 14%, it's going to the 40% range. Like, that's insane. And once it goes to that 40% range, that's going to create a volume spike, which is exactly what happened. Because it's such a large amount to be gained, let's look at volume on this thing. You know, just for snakes and ladders, let's look at volume. And look how much volume increased over the course of these valleys closing, because this is where you're going to see, you know, huge buying. You're going to see huge whales buying in here, and because this stuff is it's pretty obvious, right? And this was going to be 40%. This move was just going to keep going, because this 42% gain is just the start of a closing of one valley. And look at the space that's created here. Look at all the space that was created. So that's why this coin, over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4 days, what is that, like 200 and something percent, 181%, 200% if you got the bottom and the top. So this was pretty obvious. This is a pretty good example of how powerful trends and you know, these levels are. It's very simple. It closed out trend, it moves up to the next trend, right here. It closed out this trend right here, came, bounced off this, and it's going to test that next. You don't see a single move down until it soars past it, and actually that insane volume rip right there, where it just goes crazy, it actually tests two of them, right? It tests this and this. And you know, who knows what's in store for Bitcoin Cash SV these next few days. You know, next will be a test of this, or possibly, you know, something in this area here. I would assume there's some level in here that's fractal to this, which is the exact start of that trend, you know, probably right there. And then, you know, it'll test this, and then it'll, you know, sky's the limit where it can go. Not literally sky's the limit, but it'll be some psychological level. Like at that point, it'll be at 32,000 or 30,000 sats. Then it would go to, you know, 40,000 maybe, or 35, or just some psychological level. So I'm just gonna keep Control Zing back to get to my Ripple chart. Now it's a neat little trick on Trading View. You can just continuously do undo until you get to your previous chart. Come on, a couple more. We're almost there. This is the start of it. Yeah, oh, there we go. So you guys can start to see identifying this trend and how that looks, right? You can start to see the importance of that trend and what it means when you start gaining and collapsing out on these levels. So let's delete some of this stuff and continue on here. And the next part is going to be gaining the high that brought the move up, losing the low that brought the move down, gaining the high that brought the move down. So we're going to just continue dissecting this and going through this. We did it on the high. Now let's do it on the low, right? So we're just going to delete these levels here. Won't be important for what we're doing next, right? We're going to, we'll have to leave those up there because well, okay, you know what, we're moving down. Move these 4 down like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Move those 5 down. We're going to start, well, okay, you know what? We we'll leave these up, but we'll take them out as we need. So now let's go to this side of the move. So we saw how it works on the way up. Let's talk about how it works, on the way up. Let's talk about how it works on the way down, right? So on the way down, you have these swing lows, right? And where's the trend? So let's see, the trend high, we're gonna mark in green. So this is the trend high, right? That's the high of the trend, and that's already green. Perfect. That's the high of that trend, right? And what does that look like? Right? So, you know, do head and shoulders really exist like I've said in previous videos, or are you just seeing the proper way that trends are marked out, right? And what people use these shortcut tools like indicators or head and shoulders, when really all they're missing is the trend, right? It's as simple as that, right? So you have the top of a trend here. Where's the next trend start? You'd have the top of a trend right here. Some fractal zone in here, like somewhere in there, because that starts that downtrend, and then you'd have the top of the trend here, right? And it's going to be the same thing as the, we can get rid of these swing lows because they are not really relevant at this moment. All I want to do is show you guys the trend, right? So that's the start of a downtrend, comes up, tests the trend, right? And it would be like this, and that's what creates your swing low. So, going back and creating that swing low that we just deleted, actually, what is that swing low, right? We had it red marked as a swing low, but actually that's the trend low, right? So the swing low actually becomes the trend low. So you see how that works, where although we marked it red, it was really to start to show you that, hey, a swing low is probably going to be a trend low. So now we have that same zone, right? So now we would have the swing high of the candle, right? Or not the swing high, but the on this side we marked it as blue, the swing low of the trend candle. Now we are going to call this the swing high of the low trend candle. So you guys understand, you guys are very smart. I'm not going to change the text and waste more time, but I am going to just mark this as blue. Right? So now we have that same thing where we've created this zone right here. We've created the swing low to the swing high, right? Or in this case, the inverse, the swing high to the swing low. And we now have created, this zone of this blue candle. And when that zone is not lost, it's coming back to test here and to back test the trend. And it's continuously losing trend, right? And if we were to mark this swing low again and turn that red, right? Where's the start of that trend? Well, the start of that trend would be either somewhere in here, or technically it would be right here. So you'd have another trend within a trend. So you can see how the fractal nature of this, how it's moves within moves within moves, and you can break this down into further time frames, and we'll go over that in a much more advanced lesson in the advanced course. But you can start to see where these concepts are all the same, of marking swing high and swing low candles, and starting to understand that these are all trends, right? These are all trends that start, right? Like this right here. This is a trend, right? This right here would be a trend, and actually it would just be like that. So what does that look like? Does that look like potentially the beginning of head and shoulders? So had this thing now done this, right? Had this thing now done that, was it actually just finished its downtrend and it was retesting to come up above what they call the neckline, or was it simply just gaining one of the trends that started the downtrend? So that's why I say, you guys won't always understand what I'm telling you when I say indicators are useless and fib doesn't work, and there's no such thing as head and shoulders. But over time I'll be able to dissect it and show you further what these things mean, right? So that would be that right there, right? And then here's your trend right there, right? Here's another trend right here. You have the swing low that started it. You have the the trend start and the trend rejection, and then you have another trend right there, and you have the trend start, and it's still in its down move, right? And then going all the way to here. And what does this look like now? Why did Ripple move up? Well, it's pretty obvious. It regained its trend, right? It trend reversed because it closed the start of the downtrend, right? It closed where that started. So you guys can see why that swing high and low is important. So we are going to break down this. Oops, we're going to delete some of these and further break this down. This one we're going to keep just because it is that trend start there. So now here in Ripple, in this move right now, let's go through this, what just happened recently. Okay, so we have an uptrend that started here. Right, we have this uptrend right here, and you guys already know where this is going, but we're going to go through it again anyways on a second example. So what would we do? Right, we're going to mark out the trend low. So this is the start of the trend, right? Ooh, nope, that's not the right color at all. Okay, this is the trend low right here, right? That's the trend low. This is the trend high. Swing high in an uptrend is going to be yellow. Right? Now, this is an example where you'd need to break this down fractally to see where exactly the high and the low of the candle is. So actually, the low of this candle, well, so I had to go into a deeper chart to see this because it just looked a little funny on the 1 hour. You couldn't exactly see which was the high or the low because actually this candle closed higher, but it had a different low. So actually, I need to identify correctly the swing high candle on the bottom of that candle, okay? So I need to actually identify the bottom of that candle, which I do right here. And the bottom, I remember by memory, is blue. It's the low of the swing high candle. So now we can see that this is the resistance and support after the move, right? And we can see it comes here. It establishes that first touch that always rejects 90% of the time, and then it breaks the level, right? Let's take this magnet tool off. It's being funny. So let's do that again. It comes, it touches, first touches, rejects, comes back down, and tests. And look what it tests. It tests the trend, right? It tests where that trend broke, because that is an important moment. When this right here, when this right here happened, that signaled this move to take this big ramp up, right? If this had just touched and rejected, it would have either come and tried a second time and broke up, or it would have just come and maybe it would have continued its downtrend, right? Maybe it would have even moved further down, just like it did, you know, anywhere in here, just like it did right here, right? This is the same thing. This is the top of a trend that was tested and moved down. So, right, it's the same thing. This was also the top of a trend that was tested and moved down. So had it done that same thing where it tested the top of this trend, it probably would have just moved down if it didn't gain it, right? So it came, it did this, it touched, and it probably would have just moved down just like it did back there. So you can see exactly how accurate these levels can be. And when you start to break down why moves happen, there's an exact science to it, an exact rule and reason, right? So this zone is lost, so it tests the trend, right? Because this is a level, this is an important level. This is where we gained the ability to take this move up. That's where we gained that level, right? Oops. So as you can see, as the coin goes on, right, it comes back above. And this is all, you know, fractal within fractal moves, right? So if you were to break this down into further charts, you'd have a level here that would be, you know, this would be a further zone right here. Oops, I changed on my screen. You guys didn't see that, but I changed on my screen. You know, this would be a further zone right here that gets respected for these levels for a different reason, right? It's fractal moves within fractal moves, time zones within time zones, moves within moves on smaller and larger time frames, right? You know, so anyways, it comes back and it starts closing under this valley, and now we're having trouble to gain. So, you know, it's looking like we might test the start of this trend. And if we close this, you know, that's bad. We're going to move down because we're actually losing. If we close that, this trend that we created, right? This uptrend that we created here, right? If we start to close below where this started, we're gonna lose trend and create another downtrend, right? So it's losing and gaining trends and how it works. And you know, I bet you anything, and I don't know if this is gonna be right or not, but I'm gonna guess 100%. This is gonna be a pretty important monthly level somewhere. There's a swing low is right here. So just because I'm curious, I'm not sure if this is going to pan out. I sure hope it does. but it should, right? Sometimes these things don't quite line up exactly, but if we were to take this and mark out these two levels, yeah, so it's like, you know, you can't make this stuff up, guys, right? Like this is just fractal within fractal within fractal, right? So take a look at this. What does this look like? This looks like the exact same thing we talked about creating a trend. The zone, right? The zone at the monthly swing low and the swing high of that monthly, it creates that zone. When it breaks out of that zone and closes, look at the ramp up it takes, right? It's closing that level, right? And this monthly level is now moving up here, just like it did on the earlier chart. But this is actually still creating a level, right? Like this is still a level here. And let's go to the daily chart and take a look at Ripple on the daily and see where that monthly level ends up being. Right, we have two monthly levels at the top and the bottom of that. Back from this zone here, right, we have the top and the bottom of that marked out as a monthly level. Take a look. Well, would you look at that? Touches a monthly level twice and moves up. So you guys can see that we are taking a skill set of marking highs and lows, and we are starting to expand it. And we're going to have more lessons and videos on levels. But this gives you a really good insight to what trends mean in the space and how to see trends and why they are so important, right? And really why these moves are getting rejected and why they're pushing forward and kind of the more advanced parts of trading, right? It looks simple, but it's not. It takes a lot of practice to recognize this stuff, and this is just a very basic overview of it. And everything is fractal within zones, and even here you can see how important the top of this trend is, right? Like you can see how important this trend right here was in the entirety of this move. You know, someone's going to go and they're going to mark this swing low and they're not really going to understand the importance of it or why, but you know, the implications that it could have when we gain this level, right? And you know, this trend here, right? What is this? Like if you were to move this over, the start of this trend is just the failure of this trend, right? And this trend is just the failure to regain in this trend. So you can see how everything in charts, everything in stocks, everything in markets is fractal to its bigger or bigger brother or little sister or little brother or bigger sister, whatever. It doesn't matter, whichever you prefer, I guess. Maybe you're the older brother and you prefer, it doesn't matter. I'm too tired to make jokes. It's about 2 in the morning right now. So you can see how everything is fractal within markets and moves within moves and time frames within time frames, right? The testing of this valley and you know what this looked like to be what would have been, you know, the magical pattern we're not going to mention again, and the bottom of this valley that created this valley and the testing break of this valley and this valley respecting the monthly, and you know, us finding this downtrend, right? Well, where would we find a downtrend, right? Like where would the downtrend, if any place that's going to stop such a rampant downtrend? Let's look at the weekly chart. You know, let's take away some of these. Like that's a pretty rampant downtrend if you look at it, right? What would stop a weekly downtrend like this? Maybe a monthly level from the past. Well, there was no monthly level in here, right? So this trend here had no monthly levels in it, right? Doesn't this just look like the smaller chart that we just drew out and broke down, right? Isn't this just the low of this trend to the top, you know, all the way over here, swung out like that? It's just the testing of a trend, right? It's just the exact same thing we've been doing on lower time frames. Just like right here, this is a trend and it gets broken, right? And look, that's our red line here. So actually where we marked this level was actually from way back here. So look at this uptrend. The uptrend is lost and it creates a downtrend, and the downtrend is bounced off the monthly. So you can see how levels end up being trends, and trends are the beginning identifying pieces of levels, and the importance of kind of marking that top and bottom of things and starting to see things a little differently in a more advanced light. And we are going to expand on this concept again, you know, just to go over this one more time in the future videos in the advanced course, we will further break this down, but this is a good introduction to show you guys how levels really are starting to work on a more advanced level and a more advanced landscape, right? Like, yeah. And you know, even to further this point, there was a trend right here, right? And if we take that trend, uh, this level right here, this trend, it looks like there was a test of that in there too. So if we go to the 4-hour, was it actually a test of that level and that trend? So when we gained that trend, when we gain the bottom of that, right? Because we gain the bottom of this trend right here. So I'm just going to leave this silver for a second here because it doesn't really matter. Like that's a trend there that was never gained and it was lost. So we lost the top right here, right? We lost the trend right there and we never came back over top of this trend right here, right? So what actually happened in there? Well, let's zoom in and see. Looks like a test of the trend to me. Like this blue level that was fighting for this zone that we created, this zone here, which is the swing low of the high candle, right? This whole zone looks like it's testing the trend to me. It doesn't even look like it's a zone, but it's fractal, right? It's time frames within time frames. So let's go through this list because I could just kind of keep rambling on here in an incoherent manner and start repeating myself and going in a circle. So trend, start, and end, I think you guys understand that. Identifying the important levels is what we did this whole video. Gaining the low that brought the move up. So you guys understand that when you lose lows and highs, the implications of the 3 different levels now, instead of breaking it down into 2 levels and sections, we've broken down sections of levels into larger pieces of levels. So we've identified the swing low of a trend followed by the swing high of a trend and the bottom of that swing high candle, right? So we've identified like a 3-tier zone. We've identified a large move with a smaller fractal move inside of it. So we've identified, like I said, that 8-day move. We took that 8-day move and we expanded it from 2 candles on 1 day. We expanded all the way out to 8 days, and then on the other end of that 8 days, we took the top and bottom of that candle, right? So let me pull up my chart here. You guys know what I'm talking about, but just to really drive this point home, I want to make sure, because the advanced material can be pretty it can be oversighted pretty quickly, right? So when we did that thing where we created the zone, right, we did this, we took the where was it that we did it? I believe it was right here. Well, that's okay, it can be anywhere, right? When we took kind of this area here, this bottom and this top, and that was the first zone that's created. That was what we did in the beginner's course, and then in this course we're taking that and we're creating a second level right here, which is expanding this zone like this, right? And then we're taking that and creating a third level. So now we're using 3 levels within a larger zone, right? So that idea of 3 levels within a larger zone to see what's happening in the move, right? So losing those levels. So something like losing the low, right? Losing the low that started the trend, right? And actually this would then be moved, right? Because the start of the trend was actually right here. So this would then be moved right here. And when we lost this low, what does that mean? And when we lost this low, what does that mean, right? Or if we gained this high, like we started to gain highs on the other side of the chart over here, right? And you can see when we gained this high over here, like what did that mean when we gained the high? So you can really now pick apart how these moves happen, right? So again, I'm not going to continue badgering you guys about that. It's done and done, right? And gaining the high that brought the move up. What happens when you gain the high? Well, you continue that uptrend. And what happens when you lose the low that brought the move down, right? When you have a swing low and you keep going lower, right? What does that mean? How can you further dissect that into valleys and into trends, and not, don't worry too much about the valleys other than starting to see them with your eye, because we'll go into valleys later. But how can you dissect the trend, right? What does it mean for the trend? And trend shows reversal. Like trend is everything. There's an old saying that trend is your friend in stocks, and there's a reason, because for those of you of us, or those of you, or all of us who understand it, it's a very powerful tool. And gaining the high that brought the move down. So what does it mean, right? When we were somewhere like this over here. And sorry for the chart being a little messy, but there's no way around that, right? There's no way around a chart not being messy on a lesson like this. It's just the way it is, right? So what did it mean when we gained the high of that trend, right? What did it mean when we gained some of these levels, right? Like when let's just delete this. Let's turn off volume indicator, just clean this up, right? We can keep that. This one we don't need for now, right? What did it mean when we gained that trend? This was downtrend. What did it mean when we gained that trend? When we closed above it here, we gained that support. This is support. When you gain support, you're moving up. What happened when we closed this trend, right? What happened there? We're moving up, right? So we're going to test the next trend. Well, the next trend was here, right? Just like on Bitcoin Cash SV, where was the next trend? Right there. So we tested that trend, right? And then there's another trend from back in the past here, which we're just going to delete that for now because it's not important. But then we tested this trend, right? And then what would the next trend have been? Well, the next trend looks like it would have been here, possibly. Or it could be, this is just a very quick oversight. It could be another level within there. To chart this thing out properly takes time. It's not something you can bang, 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 bang do. Not until you get better anyways. And then the next valley chart would have been, up here. So, at 91 cents. So yeah, I think we covered this pretty well. This is the beginning of the advanced course. So there's lots more to come. Go over this a few times. It's going to take you a lot of practice, a lot of attempts to get this stuff right. It's going to be a grueling journey, but nevertheless a good one, because you're going to be masters when you're done. So this has been Advanced Course Part 1, Lows and Highs. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Take care. Bye.